Live from New
Hello,
York.
everybody. We're live. Here we are. Hi, I'm Janet Lessin. We're with Theresa Morris, and we're simulcasting. This is Aquarian Radio Media or Aquarian Media, and Theresa is TJ Morris ET Radio. We are working on a new name because we were doing radio for, I don't know, 12, 13 years, 14 years, and now we're in audiovisual. So we're working on a new name for ourselves. So my working name is Aquarian Media. What is your name you're calling your new network, Theresa J.
My
Morris?
my company in Florida is American Communications Online, but it's so long the computers won't recognize it's too many. So for a website, I have ACO Association for the digital imaging and video, and then ACO Club for all my videos online. So ACO is the acronym, of course, for American Communications Online. So we'll work with that because we
Excellent.
work with AI and
All
other
right, so
things.
we're doing a presentation today, and I'll click that on. Let's see how this works. There you saw what we look
Hello.
like.
Yeah, we
Hello.
started
So
this a couple weeks.
well, I changed the beginning, but I just put this. So this is part two or three. I forget what we left off on. Um, but we're looking at, and I'll go to the next slide.
Ah, I hadn't
The
seen that
alien
one.
contact, the experience. I
Okay.
look for these are all from the wide world web, the internet, and they're for educational purposes. And oh, here's Marlena. Hello, welcome, Marlena. So, so Teresa, I'll ask you a question. Are you an alien contactee? And if so,
Yes,
explain
I
that
am.
to us.
An alien
And what makes
contactee
you
is above a CE5. Okay. I spent most of my life knowing about things that were just normal to me. So you and I say from the crib because we are aware that each other is aware. So being aware that you're an
Mhm.
alien contactee, it probably formulated, although it was always happening. We didn't title ourselves in groups. However, through the years, we've learned to find ourselves among those that have been contacted. So they are different and unique, and we'll get into that. So, alien contactee, someone that has experienced either a UFO, a UAP, a USO, or those involved inside them are some type of AI or even virtual reality because there's many dimensions, realms, galaxies, and we'll be getting into all that. But what does alien contactee really mean? Because it means different thing to different people, both malevolent and benevolent. So we'll get into what everybody has their understanding, Janet, of what an alien
Mhm.
contactee
I
is.
want to go into the personal because I want to know what makes you an alien contactee.
My
So bring
experiences.
it, yeah, your personal. I just do one thing, or make it brief because we're going to do a lot more on this. But what makes you an alien contactee? And then
My
I'll do my
personal
turn.
my personal experiences in 3D reality, right here in 3D.
Okay, can you give us an example of one?
Sure. From the time I was born, I had little people I spoke to that I thought my mother could see, but she couldn't. So a lot of people have that experience, especially those that are in maybe a program or a project, either of extraterrestrial origin, deity origin, uh, interdimensional origin. We don't know. So that's what we're about. We're about being contactees and learning all about the history. Mine started as a child talking to other people that I would call ET, aliens.
Hmm. Right,
I guess I don't
and I
remember.
had
Go ahead.
uh, finish your sentence. You
I
broke
was.
up. Say your sentence.
It's normal for me throughout my life. I've had visitations and went to White Sands and met them there, and then I met them in Oklahoma and Texas. I saw oversight where they stopped everything up in New York, Rochester. But they're very fantastical creature type things that we share. And I don't know that everybody has the same experiences, and I think there's a reason for that. So mine have been my entire life
Right.
up till living here in the last 2 years.
The same with me. I have ongoing contact since a crib. I was aware of my pre-existence and my decision to come into my incarnation. There was a period where they blocked it out. Somebody blocked it out, either myself or God or extraterrestrials, because I was getting in trouble with my mother. She was not reacting well. Like your mother didn't believe you were talking to people, and mine, I guess she believed it because she all freaked out and didn't like it. And it was scaring her too much. So she started thinking of me as like a demon seed or something possessed, because she's very Christian oriented and um, almost evangelical, but she was Presbyterian. So anyway, so they came in and did an intervention for my own good, and they shut down a lot of my abilities because I came in with different. And I think a lot of it. Children come in with magical powers. They remember past lives. They can do telepathy and telekinesis and all kinds of things. But if the parent, if it's putting you in danger with your parent or parents or even your siblings, they stepped in, did an intervention to protect me from expose myself and experiencing harm. So that was, but I've had ongoing contact and I still have contact to this day. So it's very different for me, even over time. It's, we have different contact when I was a child, and it's more spiritual and uh, like lucid dreaming and going out of body. Sometimes I'm in physical locations. But we talked about this before the show. We never are allowed to bring back things. Like they won't let you bring back a piece of the ship. So, Theresa, how do we prove this? I don't think we can. But what would you think would constitute proof of being a contactee?
I don't think it's meant to be that way because it's such a
Theresa.
division.
Oops. Okay, Theresa faded out. Here she is. Okay, add to stream. Let's put her back in. Um,
Okay.
By this time next week or the following week, listeners, I will have high speed internet, and hopefully we will no longer experience these dropouts. But back to you, Theresa. What were you saying? You broke up. Say your last two sentences again.
Oh, I don't know what. This would be alien ACO, Alien Contact Organization, right?
Right. But what we were asking was, okay, let's just continue. So when you're a contactee, you're not allowed to bring back pieces of the ship. If the government's involved, they make sure they mind wipe you. You're not going to be able to bring back information unless you somehow supersede their mind control and mind wiping, or maybe you go to hypnosis, and even a good therapist, hypnotherapist, might be able to get you past some of your mind wipes. But are you still there, Teresa? Are you live? Yeah, your eyes are blinking. How do you think?
I'm still in human form.
What would constitute what would constitute proof? I mean, I know. I think what we have, for me, this whole movement is proof. This is called testimonials, and we now have thousands and thousands of testimonials. If you go back through time to like Ezekiel and the characters in time that are obviously describing, close encounters of the third, fourth, and fifth kind, and looking at angels, which we're going to have at the end of this slideshow. So
We
let's
could
kind
mention
of
Carl. We can mention a history from 1934 with Carl Lorenzen. She started the first group in Wisconsin. Carl Lorenzen, APRO, and then and her husband,
yeah,
and then later on Betty and
yeah. I
Barney.
have,
So there's
and there
been
was and I've been. I've been looking at all the contactees in the 40s and 50s, and there was a huge contactee movement, and they went over to Big Rock in California, and they were actually having these conferences and conventions all over the United States, and there was a big group. Now, these contactees back in the 40s and 50s, they were calling them Venusians. They were from Venus. And I think that was my theory, is they were saying, the aliens were saying we're from Venus because, it was one of the closest planets to the Earth. And it made sense because humans couldn't wrap their minds around any kind of interstellar travel. And I'm not saying that ETs had to travel through interstellar modes every time they came here. I think they've been here all along and been watching over this Earth since the creation of humanity, and probably long before that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, alien contactees are in the Bible, and the
Right.
God that is talked about from the beginning, and leaving the whole story, the Numalish and all, there's the same story over and over again, including the one in the Bible, but they're all, you either believe or you don't. There's no fact or no proof that those were even people that existed. So that's called faith. And the faith that we exist and have a belief in any deities, one God or many gods or no gods, as agnostic, proves that there's something historically that wants to be known about our species and humanity on this planet. And the ones I have met are all biological entities. They're called extra biological entities, are ebens, according to the government, and the way that that was expelled to those that did have some type of government involvement, which I did and my husband did. But those on the outside pretty much have only their experiences, and most of us were thought of as crazy, and that was set up as a smear campaign or a propaganda campaign, especially in after
Right.
Arnold and then at Roswell. So speaking the truth is like, do you believe in history or not? And will people believe what we're doing now was truth, or were our filters, or were we being programmed? And
Well,
everybody will feel that way.
let me let me
Go
add
ahead.
something here. You mentioned the Bible. In my perspective, from my research, is that a lot of these biblical characters were the gods, which are extraterrestrial Anunnaki. God, I mean, look at that. They make God, he's sitting on a throne, and he's a humanoid. And so, I so there's all these stories in the Bible, and it's ongoing, and it follows through the modern times. And a lot of these extraterrestrial UFOs and encounters are in uh, ancient paintings, medieval paintings. So I think we've had contact all along, and it's
Oh,
been
there's no
different for
doubt.
different people.
There's no
Yeah.
doubt. And NASA made the Ezekiel wheel. And so that's patented and copyrighted, I'm sure. But, as far as
What do
proof,
you
we're
mean by
coming
that?
out.
They have a ship like that? What do you mean by
Yeah,
the
they made
Ezekiel wheel? They
a
have a ship?
scientist. A scientist was a non-believer. It's a long story, everybody. I don't want to retell it. But anyway, yeah,
It's time.
NASA actually, a scientist at NASA, because I'm not going to go into all the names and details, but I am a
Right. Yeah,
historian,
we'll do that.
and I can tell you just skimming over the surface, because everyone needs to do their own research on alienology and ufology, because we've put in hundreds, if not thousands of, maybe millions of hours. Well, Janet and I are not spring chickens, if you can tell. So we are the seniors that have been spending a lot of our time daily. Gosh, since I met her in 1993, doing our
Right.
best to prove our stories with other people and having events and psychic events and how it all works consciously. And what we've surmised is that everyone has the potential to find out who their elders are at higher dimensions, depending on your conscious, subconscious, your superconscious, and your mind and soul. And I believe they're different, that we come down here in a little spark and return back to our highest level or oversoul, as all the old automatic writers called it. So there's a lot to get through as far as how we've created all this. Since most people go back to Foo Fighters and the history of orbs and UFOs, and there's so many stories out there that we're all just enjoying our educational entertainment. Now, some of the ones that got the most Hollywood entertainment out of their writing books about this are stories where, of course, Betty and Barney Hill in the beginning, and now Kathy
Right.
Arden is the niece, probably owns the copyrights to all of that, or her family does. Now you're showing a picture
Right.
now of people. Maybe I don't have these type of experiences. Mine have all been in consciousness.
I had a period where they were harvesting my genetic material, probably my eggs. So that was when I was in my, well, I don't know when it started, but I really became aware in the 1990s when I was married to my second husband. I was going through infertility, extremely expensive and horrendous infertility stuff, where I was going to do the IVF impregnation, but it didn't work. But because I was taking my temperature, and I knew when I was ovulating, and so the aliens let it be known that they were contacting me, and they were like taking the eggs or whatever they were doing. They would come twice a month, and I would wake up and I'd have to get ready to go to work at Penn State University, and I was traumatized because their mind wipe didn't work with me 100%. So I was aware of interacting with them, and sometimes I came back with puffy eyes, because apparently their light, if they put their lights in your eyes, or they're very powerful, they'll sometimes make your eyes will get puffy. So there she goes again. Come back, Theresa, come back. And then I felt like I had been hit by a Mack truck for some reason. I don't know if you're still there. Something there. Okay, she's back. So, but this is so a big percentage have this, but not everybody. I also have my military contact, and I have very conscious and spiritual, and all
Have you got
kinds of
another
stuff. I have
slide?
a whole next slide.
That's
so these are
better.
the abductee type things.
You sure found some interesting stuff.
Go back to some people.
Wow, that's the one we imagined. Yeah, we see those in movies.
Travis Walton had one like this. Yeah, Travis Walton had one like this.
I don't know that it was like that. His story seems to have changed.
His depiction is, some people have seen test tube people, but they're not always human like this. These are humans. This is Betty and Barney Hill. This is a depiction from somebody who illustrated Betty and Barney Hill. They saw a cigar. See, theirs was more cigar shaped, but I saw a craft like this. You see the little windows and little people? Yeah. I saw one of those when I was about 12, maybe 13, in August. I know it was August because that's when the katydids come out and they start chirping really loud. So that happened. Let's see. Let's go to another one. The internet is full of these. I just Googled them, and it's like, wow.
So I had fun with that.
A field that
I had fun with that triangle over.
Yes, a lot of people have seen the TR3B, they call it. They think it's military, but it might be retrofitted from alien. It could be alien technology retrofitted.
Reverse technology, we don't know.
So why don't you talk about that? That's not Gus. That's not Gus, right?
No, he's more
Gus
of a
doesn't look like that, right?
No. No. This one is, I
So
believe, is
tell me
reverse
what you're
technology.
seeing the TO3 people.
Everyone has their
Say that
filters
again,
and
please.
experiences. I said everyone has their filters and experiences, but when I've seen these lights overhead was when I was a truck driver coast to coast. I told you I was going on and off base. And, you know, I worked carrying U.S. Treasury, Microsoft, other things. You know, at the time, your bill of lading, you actually sign for parts and you go coast to coast in a big truck, you know, like 18-wheeler, and you pull big box, you know. I pulled mostly dry van. I started in frozen food and went to dry van. But when I was going on and off base, it seemed to be some of these, strangely enough, they would follow me. So I don't know what I was carrying. So I'm wondering if they were military. I don't know.
Oh, they might have been protecting you in case you wrecked or.
Yeah, I don't know what I was carrying, and I didn't look. I've got a cough.
You don't know what you're carrying, so that might be your escort, like it or not. Extra. Get a drink. Get a drink. You're okay. You're okay. You with us, TJ? Did you gone? Yeah. You know, I think sometimes we start doing these. It's really hard to talk about this. You know,
my throat wants to close up. I have to admit,
and I have that.
I don't know what it is, but when I start talking this stuff from a 3D, you know, being the now responsible person, not going quacky. But in our lifetime, we've watched the experiences jump from this can't be real to, oh, well, you're just hallucinating or you're crazy, or if you say anything, they'll make you crazy. So you won't get your clearances or whatever. But Janet, my throat's closing up, so you talk a minute.
Okay. Anyway, so as I was going through the internet, I found all these incredible, and there's thousands more. I only grabbed some with enough pixels so they'll show up. But people all over the planet are doing these artists and renditions. I like this one. I go, yeah, aliens and cats. That makes sense.
You like cats and
like
aliens. Oh, they look like, the skinny ones with no hair. They look very alien. What are those? Yeah, they're very expensive. The ones with no fur.
There's a name for them. All my cats have hair. I just have Maui feral cats that you get the Humane Society. That's what I have.
Well, there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm very healthy. But it seems to be when we talk about things that we haven't been able to in the past, my physical reality shuts in on me. My body, in other words, mind, body, spirit is, and I'm a master. I'm an ascension master with awakened, soul, and I have been out of body, near death experiences. You know all that, but it doesn't give you any clout anymore. I mean, I'm trying to control my body, but my body seems to want to take over. So that could be implanting or programming from the government. I don't know. You hear all kind of people. But I always want to feel like I have my own free agency and free will. Okay, so what kind of alien are you? Well, I've always been attracted to the 5 stars, and we use those. And I know people are just going to duplicate what we say, Janet, plus it's already out there anyway. But in the full truth of it, when I was wearing a uniform in space, what Janet called super soldiers in UFO secret space, I've always been a very strong woman. Even nowadays, I go to the senior center and they're amazed at my power. I pick up things they can't, and I throw them around like they're nothing. So I still have unbelievable strength. That was Stan Lee in comics. Michael Jackson and Stan Lee were going to help me at one time. Stan Lee followed me on the UFO Digest, Janet. You remember Stan Lee? Anyway, he was looking. I think he had a show for a short time about people like me
that I have met. So I met Stan Lee at an early conference in Pittsburgh. We used to have these monster cons and have all these science fiction people. So I was in the audience, a small audience, and not a really large room with Stan Lee, and I got towards the front. So he was a cool person. He was just amazing. Okay,
And he loved synergy, and he loved people and entertainment. And I feel like you and I are doing educational entertainment just like he did. He knew things, and he knew we were much more than we are now. But it says, what kind of alien are you? Now, see, I like positive pictures like this. I don't gravitate to a lot of the negative, and that's okay because some people have negative, bad experiences. I'm not disrespecting anyone who has. I just am telling you that from my point of view, mine has all been about raising awareness, consciousness, the ascension age, and this epoch in time called the ascension age. And these beautiful people here, see, to me, well, the one in the back has a little issue, but I've seen people, even my husband, go back to that look, the purple.
I think he's cute. He's cute.
So, it all depends.
Cute.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But I tend to like the ones that are neither male nor female. So what would you call the one in the middle? There's a name for that, where they're not really
androgynous.
I like androgynous.
Androgynous.
I said if I went back into the fashion industry, I'd do androgyny clothes because I think that's where we should go, and very futuristic. But what kind of alien are you? Well, I'm the kind that's lived and died and come back to tell about it. And so I don't know what kind that is here on Earth, but I've worked with various levels of intelligence. And I've been fortunate enough to work with the Allied Command and Joint Chiefs of Staff. So I'm going to just start being open with saying these things and see how it works. But I don't think they're going to work well with all these.
Yeah, and I said,
see, these I don't like. I'm not into evil looking or what looks old or decrepit because it's in our nature not to want to decay. And those all look decayed. They look dead already.
I haven't seen these.
Yeah, I haven't seen these. The ones I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We probably look very ugly to these people, to be honest. But, to please those that listen to us, we just have to tell our truth because we've been doing it for so long, and we are the ancient ascension masters in our higher consciousness down here visiting for a short time. And this is a very short journey. Can you change pictures? Those are human-like creatures.
These are kind of like ones that Whitley Strieber saw.
Well, you can see
these are kind of like the ones that Whitley Strieber saw.
Okay.
On in communion with the big eyes. To me, I think they're just interesting looking. It's kind of like
I've seen them with big eyes, but they have caps over their eyes. Is what makes them like that. But okay. And that's one thing is our job in Ace Focus.
To the guy in the lower corner. See the guy in the lower corner, close up. I have opened my eyes and they're that close to me. It's like, what are you doing?
I like the one in the middle if I have to like any of them, maybe because he's got his shirt on. Talking alien.
Like, what's that? Oh, yeah.
He's wearing the same color I'm wearing. So must be a good guy.
Okay, you talk for a moment. My sinuses are acting up. Hold on.
Oh, great. Okay, now see, you're folks, I'm starting to wonder. We're supposed to be the ones that are helping you guys understand the reality that you can talk about it now in alienology, because everybody's doing it from their own perspective or having other people, and we are actually experiencers. Now, there's all types of alien grays. I'm not going to lie. You can have them anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. And now I've heard tall whites, but they look more like the one on the left here, humans. So the ones I've seen have some of them have been in military uniforms and some haven't. So, it's going to be just like in space. We have those visiting here, maybe area S4, over around Area 51 or whatever, vacationing, that's been told. And then there's those that may or may not be working underground. I don't know. I know about all those. I've always, as an investigator, looked up all the different stories and tried to follow the threads and look for patterns. So the type of aliens that resonate with you, yes, these are beings. They're probably made up of energy.
Vacationing. So they're So aliens come here?
Now, there's some
Aliens come here on vacation? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, yeah.
Tell us about that.
They get tired. When Tom and I was working in the 80s, we learned of people that were actually working out in the desert. Now, some, yes, were trying to hide hazmat. And many trucker stories will tell you that, as I was a trucker. So some of the stories I heard in the uniform, some I heard out of uniform, some I heard going cross country as a trucker. And so, I have to really stop and think, because I'm going to be 72 this year. And I thought I was going to tell this story many, many times, and I couldn't make it. And right now, even my throat wants to close, and my nose wants to run. It's, I don't know if it's human or not, but our DNA, I think that, now this is just an opinion. I believe that the deities that set us down here on this planet, there's various deities, even though they said God says there's only one, and we became solo, whether one man or not, and then one Jesus or not, and one Muhammad or not, or one Allah and one Adam, because we all want to believe we came. Well, men want us to believe we all came from man and only one. But I'm here to say there is an alpha and an omega. And I've seen both male and female and androgynous. So I do believe there's AI out there. I believe there's biological AI. I believe I'm cyborg because I have titanium in my neck. And I'll probably keep going because I'm one of those that believes that somewhere out there in all these universes, there's not only humans, there's AI and there's biological entities that are a mixture of both in order to see how it all works. Why not? I mean, if we can do it, why not? Go ahead, Janet.
How do we know that I think it's Battlestar Galactica. How do we know that we aren't AI? I mean, we could be. In Battlestar Galactica, they could breathe, they bled, they could experience death, they got revived, of course, which we do. We come back again, we get born again, although it's a birth process. So how does and we see the things on robots and AI and Sophia and what's her name, Emergen, and it's like they go, well, I'm alive. They think they're alive.
Yeah.
Or I will have a soul. I will be alive. I'll be someday. So I mean, we could have been around for millions of years in this form, and we just go, okay, we think we're. What is the difference anyway? I think it's just a vehicle in which a higher consciousness comes down, a soul, a spirit, whatever you call it, and it's like Avatar. We animate these forms. So when I said
believe
earlier,
that.
what kind of aliens are? Yeah, I think I have been in every form imaginable. And I've been contacted by every form imaginable because that's just like going down the street and seeing Chinese and Mexican and Filipino and over here in Hawaii. I see every day. I see people and some of them are just amazing. Uh, I grew up in Pittsburgh, which was mainly black and white. But when you come to a different part of the world, the differences between humans is amazing. Sometimes they're absolutely stunning. It's like, what? How did that person get to look like that? And I think that's what happens when you go out in the cosmos and you interact with aliens. You go, wow, isn't that an interesting form? So when you slow down and you look at each other in the eyes, and you really sense the spirit of the being before you, I think they're all beautiful and they're fascinating. So that's
Well,
my
I
opinion.
think you and I are talking from a 3D reality, and a lot of people have already visited, they're already out of body experiencers, near death experiences, and they visit, and that gives you a different idea of being outside your body or watching yourself. So you have an oversoul, you have a guardian, and you have those above that really do care about you. And I like to think that way. If it's all a belief system keeping you here, something you believe in is keeping you in your form, because everything will finally get down to the, how it came as a microcosm, and everything in the macrocosm. And we have to look at everything as equal, and we all reflect on each other. So we're all something of a similar nature. But for right now, we look for patterns in humanity. And so we're talking today about aliens and how your soul affects your alien part, your human part, or both. And if we all are souls or entities coming down into our avatars, that seems to be with the movies, such as any of Philip K. Dick's, basically, and then The Matrix, with the Keanu Reeves movies, anything with Star Trek. And a lot of us grew up on Star Trek for a reason, and that was because of the our overseers are the Ennead Nine, and we go under that. Now, are you Pleiadian? That's the most popular because they were the most human-like, and they were the most kind and conservative. But most of us, all from the old days, acquire the 5 stars, or if you look at them, they're like Orion's belt, and they align up with the pyramid. Now, the Pleiadians are, of course, said to be from the Pleiades. And now, whether they're all blonde, blue eyed, or blonde and hazel eyed, I don't know. They're just always the most beautiful, it seems. There were some at one time. Now, I worked with those that were above the Milky Way galaxy and Andromeda galaxy. And that area we've coined the Magazone because we couldn't come up with another Amaga, but it is above both galaxies out there. And Janet and I are going to write our higher self stories. It's like a continuation of what we've seen visiting down here that people are gravitating to in their avatars. But I've had lately people I'm meeting that I live a life now in Gulf Breeze, where Dr. Stephen Greer started investigating in 1993, as did Dr. Bruce Maccabee. And of course, we've got Jan Aldrich, we had Stan Friedman, but Dr. Bruce Maccabee did some research here and on the Billy Myers story. So there's names you're going to hear of people that were alien contactees, and whether people, I don't think they were looking for a follow-up, neither is Janet nor I.
I just want to bubble on this slide. Notice how you said that you've met a lot of extraterrestrials in military, and Star Trek is a military basis. They have rank, and they use the ranks that we use here.
Right.
The captain of the ship, and so a lot of people, humanoids, obviously, that use a military base. I mean, you've interacted with the extraterrestrial military,
right? And they prefer to use.
You've seen.
When they come down, they're you could say they are put into. See, this is stuff that's so hard to navigate through in human language because so much of it has to be translated into a language. But yes, what Janet's saying is true in my story anyway. It's my personal opinion that the people I worked with in various locations, or when they came down, once they had a huge conference over above St. Louis, where the arch is, and it was about the same time they had I think it was planned because they had a TV show about it, but I guess they took that show away. But there was an interdimensional set down over there where they had one of the ancient mounds right outside of Chicago along a river. And I don't know, I don't need to get all the details, but they had various people from various organizations. So it's much like Star Trek, believe it or not. It was a Galactic Federation movie in the making, but to me it was real. But I was like, how do I deal with this? And then the ones up that I met with Tom, they would come down here to serve time. So like we do 20 and back, Tom did 20 years here and died. But, he had it planned that way.
Right.
But people can come and go in time sequencing, and they may only lose a few seconds here in this reality. So what, was throwing me, I had questions working in the position I did. I was told I was in a special project by our government. and that's the United States government. And that, for all these different projects, I'd only have a few people, maybe 5 at the most, working with me, and then I'd see them, and then I'd never see them again. Or I'd see them once, or give a name, and would never see them again. So, I believe these were extraterrestrials working with us on the planet in the intelligence community and in the military. And then they, of course, were assigned to protect those that visit our planet, that are older, elder uh, souls, I guess you'd say, because some of them that were military got to pick their religion when they came down. They got to pick their language, with an Australian accent, or speak Farsi. So, down here, what do we have? 256 countries or so, and how many languages? So, if you think about it, it's really a big deal to come down here and to pose as a human and a soul, and most are born through embryonics, they are. Now, where we're going in the future with AI is being born outside of the human womb, just like we do racehorses. All right. If we can pretty much do anything. And we always could, but I don't think it was accepted. So it wasn't the mission of
legal in a lot of countries until recently. People have been, I don't know if it's still illegal technically in the United States to clone people, but other countries are saying we're cloning. So they're moving forward. We're making clones, but we know that our secret military. There are many stories about our secret military has a cloning project, and I've met people that said, I wasn't born to a mother and father, I was cloned, and then they implanted a story in their mind about their childhood, but they actually weren't awakened until they were full grown, and they got up and they walked around, and they had the information in their brain about who they thought they were. So that was kind of scary. But I've met 2 or 3 people that have that type of story. But if you can imagine it's happening, and it's been going on along. If you go back to the Anunnaki story, they could do all the above, and then our secret military is doing it, and so we have this really abbreviated history of the planet, which is in a closed container, and this is what's real. And you got to believe this. And so our society is self-policing. If you step outside of this narrow corridor of belief and you start believing something out there, people criticize you and shame you and call you crazy and whatever. But a lot of us right now are saying, fine, call me crazy. This is what's going on. This is my reality. Then we have hundreds of thousands of people that are coming forth and saying, I have my story. And that's what Theresa and I are doing. We're telling our story. And
do you have another slide?
We can't prove it with we have a piece of. Pardon? Oh yeah, we'll keep going. Sorry, I got.
You got plenty of slides, but I think you forget. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. I like comments while I go.
Okay, so I've had interactions with reptilians, and it turned out very good. But we won't. A lot
you
of
can
people
do those without me. I'm not fond of those.
I've met some really nice reptilians.
Well, that's a whole different
story. In my house, and the geckos are really funny. I have a little gecko that comes up, and I have to cover my teacup because the gecko will come up and drink my tea when I'm not looking. So,
well, most were supposed to come from dinosaurs, and yet there's supposed to be some in space. But now Nordics. Now, see, I relate to the Nordics, Norway, but my name is Thurmond, and so there's no coincidence. And our family's name came, at least on my father's side, was Thor's protection. Okay, so like Thor's hammer and lightning, and I've had a lot of stories that I should be telling, but these are beautiful. Ooh, that looks like very nice, but you can see human involvement. But the gods did like the beautiful women, and that's one of the first stories in the Bible, right? So the angels liked what was created down here, and they said, "Hey, we're going to get us some," and they did. They just called it a different name, but then there was also giants, and we've proven that scientifically here and there, even though the bones may be hidden from most. So, talking reality and talking virtual reality is going to be really hard to explain this to my grandchildren because they said, Grandma, we all think you're crazy and we don't believe in UFOs. Of course, that was 5 years ago. She was 12. Now she's 17, and I don't know. We don't talk about it, but I don't talk about it in front of her because you don't want to impose your thoughts. If that's something she doesn't want to believe in, she'll have to discover that by herself. And that's the way my mother kept it. She didn't believe either. It was very hard for Mother talking to Stan Friedman. Mother got to talk to Stanton Friedman, Janet, on the phone when we were doing things.
Good for her.
Have you ever seen a mantis?
She
no,
probably didn't really.
I've seen these.
No, I'll tell you.
I gravitate to the.
Let me quickly tell you what I saw. I
guess I'm more AI driven.
Like I saw mantis, like the top. Anyway, mine was like a mother image. She looked like a mantis, but she was very kind. And I was experiencing a deep wound in my psyche.
This one looks similar to the tall grays, just long neck.
Yeah. So she came into the healing on me. So I liked the mantis, but they didn't look like these, They look more
artist rendition. Artists have to take it from what they can find on Earth. If they haven't seen one, they use their imagination.
Right. I think mine was more like this, and she had clothes on though. She wasn't naked. She had like a robe, like a gown or something. Anyway, I have other pictures. I didn't get to pull them in. So what about the plasma beings? Have you seen
them? I've only been affected psychologically, I would say, in a movie during Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I had to go to the hospital because it was too real. I couldn't handle it. I had an anxiety attack, had to go get Benadryl shot into my body. And then when I saw this one on TV, it affected me. I realized it was affecting me the same way. And so I knew in my mind, the beings that I have seen in the light, there's some, and they're different. Those in the gold, they're called the gold deities. They actually come from a different level in space. And then there's those like the AI embryonic with no skin. They're almost electronic shaped. And so I don't know what keeps them gravitation. I don't know how gravity holds their existence because it seems to disappear like on Star Trek. And that's one thing we always had trouble with. We knew from my training, and I guess in space or secret space or Star Wars, or I don't know how to relate to all my training, because it seemed to be all it was training, I guess, to do what we're doing now, is to be able to talk about it. And still, it's the hardest thing I can do is try to make sense of all these patterns. But I believe there's different colors, and there's different reasons, and that interdimensionally, they have a way of color coding AI and biological, because somehow they have learned how to incorporate both because of what I've worked with, right? And that's, Gus knew he had been created by the creators, and they're okay with that. But Tom always told me about the little grays, and then I didn't see them until, I always knew there was white and pink and blue, that type, but I didn't see them. The little bitty grays that we were always concerned about with Roswell, the small 3 to 5 feet. That was it Bob Anderson, or it was one of the Anderson boys, tells that story on our government's archives, National Archives, but there's stories that really happened, and now it's still hearsay because the government took the ships and the bodies in underground, right? Whether it's Alamogordo or Dulce, or anyway, Mexico is allegedly taking them out to Mexico. So in the stories that I'm going to tell, I can only tell from my experience. But my experience in seeing things like this, it affects when I'm talking because of those interdimensional are coming and going. Are, I have this vision of working in 3D with people in full humanity, human form 3D. But then there is something in me, in my dreams or in 3D dimension, interdimensional travel to other universes when you're dead or out of body has to deal with energies of these types. And they're real. And they can do things
I
like
saw
that.
I saw them, like, I guess they were mainly blue or purples. It was like, yeah. When I had died,
Yeah.
I've had several near-death experiences, and I think I've seen more of the blue. There's more blue than the gold. Um, so that might have been the dimension I was in, which is between this one and the next one. I get the impression that the gold beings were like a higher vibratory frequency or higher dimension.
Well, remember
And
your
I,
Anunnaki stories had to have gold. There was always a gold
right,
flavor on Tiamat, wasn't it? Was it Tiamat or Tiamat?
right. Well,
That,
it
do you
doesn't matter.
remember?
How do you
Anyway,
pronounce
that's a
it?
whole nother story. Now,
Yeah,
I don't know
another
where you
story.
get all these Arcturians. Is that what they're supposed to look like? Blue heads?
This is all artist renditions. They call them
So
these
we don't
things. You
know
can.
unless
We
you've
don't know. These
experienced
are
it.
people. Maybe they've experienced these. You said they make it up. They imagine it. But where are they making it up from? Had they, like you get triggered when you see things. I get triggered too. Some of
These
these
are
things
more Hollywood
have deeply,
pictures.
yeah, they deeply affected me, and I cry. Look at the variations on Arcturians. You put in, maybe an Arcturian, and they. This lady here looks familiar
Rainbow
to me. Like
beams.
some of them, yeah,
Yeah, they
really
called them
tall. I've
rainbow because
seen
they've
some.
reflected all the colors of the human spectrum. Blue, gray.
Right. I've seen ships. It's like they're not quite solid. The molecules are constantly moving. So you have it's solid and moving at the same time. I've seen people and ships that look like these big crystal castles, and then like they're just moving, but the constant moving on a molecular level make them sparkle. That's a sparkling, and they're so beautiful. You feel like you want to cry. It's like
Well,
it's
I
such
think
beauty
that
that
whoever's
there's such
running them can change their clothes like avatars in the game. So while you're
right,
standing there, they may
right,
put on something else entirely, and you're like, wow. But you can see that in Hollywood shows how they change the lights on people, the
right.
clothes, even on RuPaul's Drag Race. I just went a couple of days ago in Pensacola, and they could change the lights, change the clothes colors right there in front of your eyes. It's amazing what they can do these
Wow, that's
days
interesting.
in 3D, for
So,
entertainment. Now, what else you got
so I'll go
besides
quickly.
Arcturian?
Well,
Know a lot about Arcturian or
there's all kinds of
reptiles.
look at these. Look, these people are doing this art now because it's got the I don't know
We love
the new way of
dragons
doing art. They like the
displaying art.
dragons here. They have all kinds of different looks.
Are those monkey
Look at them.
faces?
They have them now. I've seen them that look like animals.
Animal
And
faces?
it's like, yeah,
Well, it feels like we're
animal
playing
faces.
Hollywood.
I've seen,
Let's decide what the animals look like, but variations. Now, angels. Now, that's a whole nother thing right out of the Bible. And that's a whole, we'll have to have a whole live one on that, Janet, because
right. We
these
so
are
I
the
this
messengers.
is my angels have been around. So these are Renaissance pictures, from hundreds of years ago. Um, uh, Now,
See, I believe
why
in
do they have
angels.
them always in these? Why are they
Beautiful,
fighting?
because they're artist renditions. It's
Who are
how,
they fighting?
what we want to believe. It's how throughout history, Catholics for one thing, but
They
all the
have
paintings,
Archangel Michael, and he's
the
fighting.
Renaissance.
Look at them. They're scantily clad and they're fighting. Can you imagine
Some
going
of
to
them wear
war with
armor.
all your skin hanging out?
Yeah, my husband made
It's
me one
fascinating.
like
Then they
that.
have hanging out with Jesus. Are they really out there hanging out with Jesus? Look at these.
Well,
Jesus
they're a host.
Jesus has
Only a third of the hosts came down from heaven to this planet. So you tell me. Of course, they were supposed to be the bad
anyway,
guys.
I find it. Well, look at these
So you
poor
got to know the
shepherds.
stories in the Bible.
Terrorized. They see angels and they're terrorized. Why are they terrorized? What do you say?
Well, some people believe that, you know, it's always they're a victim of something else outside of themselves.
Oh, goodness.
So psychologically, you have to deal with
cool.
your reality.
Look at that. I'd call you up and go, Theresa. Oh, I did that one time. Theresa, there's a UFO. There's a plane. There's a ship on my front deck. You know, remember that time? So when I see something, I call you. But see, sometimes they're like, well, look, they're scantily clad. I guess they don't have a lot of clothes over there on the
That's men. That's men for you.
Oh, no,
but listen, artists put the angels to let them separate. You have to look at the history of angels or messengers from up on high. The artist in the beginning, now this is what I was told in art school or something, I don't know, when I was, the history of angels and how they added the wings in art in the ancient. It's very ancient wisdom that to show them as ascension or conscious above those that were humanity or on the planet, right? The way we are humans. That artists wanted to show they were from on high or extraterrestrial or ET or angelic, you know. Now, who's to say unless we're there that a messenger comes upon you? And it can be very biblical, very theological. And most people that are believe in the Bible believe in angels because angels are throughout the Bible. So that's another sign that we've always had beings from somewhere else that you cannot deny, that they came from somewhere else. So cosmology is really getting into the Big Bang, but what created the Big Bang and what came before the Big Bang is where, you know, all these big shots, Michio Kaku and Tyson, what's his name? The other, anyway, cosmological studies.
Theresa, have you ever seen an angel? Have you ever seen what you would call an angel?
I thought they were angels when I died. Yeah, in the second grade. I can't deny that. In the second grade, when I came out of my body for the first time, I had the blood, my body was completely yellow. My stools were completely white. My liver had shut down completely. I'd been sick probably for over a month or month and a half. They didn't think I was going to make it. And I was laying there in bed. I know that they would give me anything I wanted. And so I wanted some pajamas with hearts. My mother went and got me 2 or 3 little outfits. And I was laying there and it came out the top of my head. You've heard the story where there were 2 angel beings up in the corner and they told me they were angels to me. I didn't see wings, but the reason was they didn't have wings. But they were images like, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. So they were like, in a lot of ways, they were like virtual reality or what we learned to do with 4 cameras to make a hologram. So angels to me were messengers that could be seen, but they were hovering over in the top corner of the building with a message to me as a child that I was out of body, but I had to stay there. So they kept me staying within, 6 feet of my body anyway. So I wouldn't rip the cord, I guess, but I kept right there hovering over my body. And, somehow within me talking to them, they were able to talk me back into my body. So angels are messengers sent when you still have time on earth. I really believe they, because I've heard voices and talked to beings every time I died. So I know there's something on the other side or someone, and I would call them angels or extraterrestrials. I really would. So I believe there's always something on the other side of death.
There is.
Death and dying is a
2 episodes with angels. the second one they saw wings. I think they did it as a joke because that's what you expect to see. The first one, this beautiful uh, male being, came to me, and it was just so. I've never seen a being of such beauty, and I had just been told by my doctor that day that I didn't have long to live. You have these near-death things, right? And I had lung disease, and my doctor said, the female doctor said, I don't expect, I'm not going to give you a date that you're going to die or something, but I don't expect to have a long, basically go home and do what you want to do because you're not going to be around for a long time. And so I went to sleep, and my husband at the time was very unreceptive, and he didn't believe it. He just thought the doctor was lying. And so I was left with myself, and I went to sleep very sad. And the angel came and he said, who are you? I'm the Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
And Michael gave me hope for the future and gave me enough will to stay alive. And I said, okay, I'll stay alive. I believed him. I trusted him. So then everything he told me came to pass. And then in 2016, I got bit by my cat, which caused me to go into cat scratch fever. And I was, no, that wasn't that episode. No, it was another episode. I had a gallbladder attack, and I was in excruciating pain. And when I came into the hospital, now I asked an emergency doctor, I said, what do they give you for pain? And this was years later. I said, oh, you're an emergency doctor. What do you do? He says, well, I give people ketamine, and then I sit with them. They tell some of these psychedelics and things open the portal between this realm and the next. I said, well, I was conscious, and then I found myself, like my hospital bed, teleported from being in the hospital. I was in the middle of a room with these alcoves all the way around, and they were all lit in different chakra colors, and they had the angels with the wings, just like these guys. And they were, I think they were all female, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at these angels all around me. I'm moving my head, I'm looking at the angels, and I'm going, oh, really? Really? Angels with rings? Really? And this nurse came over and saw me looking, and I was like really like frozen and staring at them. She must have thought I died because I'm just staring with my eyes open. And she came over. She was, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" She thought I died. And I popped back in. I thought, "Oh no, I'm fine." I didn't tell her I'm seeing angels. They didn't disappear when she came over. So there was something. I had opened, some portal had opened, but they were just beaming healing energy to me because I wasn't. Without those drugs or whatever the painkillers, I was in excruciating pain. So, and then here again, what are these guys? They going off to war? I mean, look at this. These are angels. What are they fighting? I don't get it. What are they fighting? Okay,
well,
so
we've done an hour.
Oh yeah, we should. So we're going to stop here. We'll stop.
We'll
with the
take
angels.
it with the council
So
because
here's
the
the
council is very important. We need more council meeting
We'll
photos.
save that. Save that for another.
Yeah, we should
meeting. And I'll try to
divide
find
up
more council.
all these into chapters. Yeah, aliens and then angels and then the council are three different levels of initiation into the Ascension Cosmos Oracles, which is the ACO Club. It's the latest and greatest, folks, of cyberspace culture. And we'll see what happens. We're writing books.
I just want to do a little myself. I'm writing a series of books called Dragon at the End of Time. I like the dragons because the original story is the original two species were dragons, Dracos, and Lyran's humanoids. And they were the original two species that God decided to create so people could, so souls could come down and have experiences. And then they had the Draco-Lyran Wars, which is what's behind Star Wars. And then that went into the councils and the Federation, which is Star Trek. And so these fiction and science fiction in Hollywood, a lot of the information comes out through that process of storytelling and movies and theater and television shows and stuff like that. Because there's like a gag order. We're not allowed to say this, but sure, you can make it into fiction. But that's how over the they
put it on the
getting
council
this
picture. I think that was
Oh, you want
put it on the council
end with the
picture.
council picture?
Yeah, put it on
Okay,
the
here's
council.
I've been to a lot of council meetings.
Why don't you leave that picture
So we're going to
up?
talk about we'll leave that. That's for
this
next
picture.
time. We're going to talk about council meetings.
Well, you're going to put this up? So this one, just so you know, Jan, this asked me if I wanted to broadcast since I was signed in, since I paid my $50 a month. So it added YouTube channel and a Facebook channel for me to broadcast this live, just so you know. I don't know how it did it. I learned something new every day, folks, especially in computers and AGI and AI.
We want to get this out there far and wide because I think this is disclosure. The more of us that talk about
disclosure, yes.
Yeah, I think this is disclosure. So we're out here.
Come out and share. It's just as long as they don't get caught up in the fantasy and still can live in the now, because we're here to live in the now in a 3-dimensional body, mind, spirit with a physical reality, and our emotions are strictly energy and motion. So never forget that, because you can get carried away with drama and emotions that will serve you no purpose. And this is one of the lessons that I had with my ascension masters, or ascended masters, was that to train people to do without.
You can learn how to the reason
control your emotions.
Right. The reason some people get a lot of contact and the other that about drama, if you show up all traumatized and dramatic, that chases them away. But if you learn how to be like the Buddha and just say, "Oh wow, here's a being that looks different than me," and you accept, you will get more and more contact. And that's what's happened to Theresa and me. Is that we have a huge amount of contact. I think we should call this a day. And then
awareness.
What's that?
Ascension conscious awareness allows you to meet extraterrestrials of the higher beings, and some may be divine and some may be not so much. There's always a reason for them saying we had angels and devils.
Okay, we're going to call this
okay. Thank you. Are we going to do one Tuesday? So Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yes. Hi, Theresa.
Fridays only.
Okay. Aloha. Love and blessings.
I'll see y'all on YouTube, ACO Club.
Bye-bye.
Our Theresa Morris.